Falcon becomes Captain America. Okay? But he still has his Falcon wing. Right?
Son of a...
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hey ho there.
Yeah, there you go. And from music video sins, Barrett Jer.
Yay, I'm here.
Barrett Jer. Yeah.
It's how my mom says it.
Yeah, people are going to start thinking that your name is spelt with a Z now after how I pronounce that, but that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Is anybody pissed off about something? You want to rant about something?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I'm as mad as hell!
You've never seen me very upset.
Lord Jesus! Lord Jesus!
I am. I'm going to go. I'm taking it.
Let's do it.
Here we go. There are 2 or 3 kinds of news that need to stop being articles about news and start being push notifications to my phone. All right, so one of these is product recalls. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I consume a lot of internet and news on my phone. I have an Android phone, which has a news app, which kind of personalizes the news based on what I read or tend to read, but I'm still clicking through to mobile versions of real websites. And the headlines are often, "Do you have this in your pantry? Throw it away right now." And I have to click through to give you a goddamn page view for your ad money in order to find out what might kill me. And I think that is inherently evil and wrong, and I'm sick of it. Another one that happens is like, manhunt underway in your county, and I click through because I certainly want to know if he's in my bushes, and instead of a picture, I get a video ad on top of a video segment from one of the local TV news people. I have to wade through more advertising and fucking news anchors before I can get a picture of the guy who may or may not be outside lurking, waiting to kill me. And I think that should be a push notification. Hey, if it's in a certain region. Now, the one that I think they do regularly is Amber Alerts, right? If there's an Amber Alert, I usually get a notification on my phone that I never signed up for. The government is just pushing those to me, and that's outstanding. It helps us find kids. I get the silver alert ones too, when it's a senior citizen that's missing. But when it's like a wanted person or a feature of my car that means I should stop driving it immediately, or something in my fridge or pantry that could kill me, stop making it news and push that shit to my phone. Let me opt out of it if I don't want it, if I want to be ignorant, if I want to go on the internet and make someone make money in order to find out what I should stop eating. That's my choice. But you should make that all push notifications to people's phones. God damn it. End of rant.
I like it. Hey, let me ask you a question, though. And Chris has an iPhone like me. When you get an Amber Alert, does it give you any information, though?
Yes.
Like at least?
It screeches like a dying pig. And then when I look at it, it gives me an area, a city or a county, I think. Yeah. And usually like a description of a car.
I think I just get the area. Chris, do you get the description of the...
I have gotten a description of cars. I have gotten a description of where they last were seen, were you know, that type of thing. I mean, usually it's detailed that way. Now, most of the time, Amber Alerts, I understand that they want to get a wide area because these people could be, you know, there could be abductors taking them anywhere and everything. But a lot of times it's like, you know, Paris, Tennessee or something. And you're just like, okay, I mean, I understand why you do this, but the chances of me finding them are going to be 1 in a million, probably. I mean, maybe they do actually reach a million people, and that 1 in a million does find them. I don't know. I actually don't know if it works. When Jeremy said that we're finding kids, I don't know if we are or not. I guess we are. if they keep doing it.
I feel like I see a lot of headlines. This is probably just not factual. It's just my experience, but I feel like I see a lot of Amber Alert canceled, child found. And I think they probably could stand to do some tinkering on the range of how they send those out. And I'm not sure how that's decided. I don't know if it's at the cell phone company level or if it's at I don't know, honestly. Because, Paris, Tennessee, we're not going to be that helpful. But I do think, I'll Google it later and find out, but I do think it helps. And I think they should do the same thing with severe weather. I now have an app, and I can customize it pretty well. And so if there's a tornado headed towards my house, it's going to screech like a dying pig, and that'll wake me up or let me know. But that should be a push notification from the National Weather Service. I shouldn't have to go looking for that information.
Yeah, is that the app that the Nashville Severe Twitter has pushed? It's a different. It's not them, but it's it's a different app.
Yeah, it's the one they recommend.
They rely on. Yeah. I know totally. Those things are annoying though. I mean, I understand the importance and the emergency of it and everything, but man, screeching at you like that. I mean, I'm just as likely to see the silent notifications that show up on my phone, because your phone is like a complete black mass, and then when it brightens up, you notice it most of the time.
I mean, that screeching when I'm in the middle of going number 3.
I know. It ruins everything. Yeah. I'll go ahead on the next one. This gives me a chance to do 2 things at once, because we had one of our Sin Clubbers, Jacoby, who asked our question for the Patreon only SinCast that we did, the one question that we asked that we answered. He sent a package. I think this package was supposed to get to us before Sin Week, which was a month ago. He contacted me through Facebook saying, "Hey, have you gotten this yet?" And usually I wait to go to the post office, because we have those cards we send out to our Sin Club members and everything. And that's a perfect time to do it. Somewhere around 13th, 14th, 15th, go to the post office and get everything done. You can go and check the post office box, all that. And I said, I'll look for this package when I go there around the 14th or 15th. So it took him a long time to actually get it to where we were, because we don't do a very good job of putting the PO box out there for all of you guys to see and everything. I think we've got it in a couple of places, but you got to go through, probably like 5 different links or something to find it. I was like, all right, I'll just get this package when I go and mail my cards. I go to the post office, and usually when I go to the P.O. box, I open up the door, and there's a yellow slip in there that says, "You got something waiting." Mm-hmm. And this time there was no yellow slip. There was nothing there. Oh. And I told I went back and told him, I was like, usually there's a yellow slip in here. There's not one. And he called the post office and everything. He found somebody who is like, "Oh yeah, I've got that package. They just didn't put the card in the right place." And I was figuring, oh, now that they found that out, they'll give me my card and then I can go pick it up the next time. No, that's not what fucking happened. You would think once this error has been made clear that, oh, somebody's coming to get this package, I should go ahead and put a yellow slip in, so that when he goes to the desk where they do all the business at the post office, they can go back and get it. And there's not any, but apparently in this case, I kept on having to ask for a manager who knew where the box was. And every time I went to the post office, this manager wasn't there, or they weren't there when I got there, but they would be there 2 hours later or something. Of course, I couldn't be there 2 hours later. And I did this maybe 2 or 3 times, trying to go up to the post office, business area and say, can I talk to this person? They're not here. Okay. Can I speak to any manager? Well, there's no manager going to be here until blah, 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 blah. Like,
what the hell, man?
And they went back and they couldn't find the package, all this other stuff. Finally, I went, I think it was Monday. I was yesterday or Saturday. I can't remember what it was. I went in, and by this point, the person that is behind that desk has seen me come in here 3 times, so knows who I am. And so I ask, is this person's the manager in today? And she goes, oh, your package is here. It's right back here. And I was like, oh, it's that easy now, huh? It's that easy.
Wow.
And she got the manager guy who was there at the time, and he found it somewhere. I'm like, okay, look, I know we have a lot of problems with the post office. There's a lot of reasons why the post office is the way it is these days. Yep. A lot of reasons for it. Yep. A lot of people look at that in a vacuum and say, well, the post office in of itself is bad. No, there's a lot of other things happening behind the scenes. They're making the post office bad. But once somebody comes in for a package and you've been called by the person who sent it and all this other type of stuff, why is it so hard to put the package where it needs to be? Now, I'll give the post office one thing. This guy kept the package, even though normal rules would have dictated that it got sent back on the 19th. It was going to get sent back to the center. So they kept it, which is to their credit. But at the same time, if you're this manager and you know what the P.O. box is, why is that fucking hard to put a yellow slip in my box and put the box where it needs to be? Why do I have to find you to get the goddamn package?
It's kind of the fundamental tenet of the post office, right? Is to be able to locate the anyone can take them.
I was floored, and if I had been in a different mood that day, I ended up being like, oh, thanks for keeping it for me, blah, 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 and just going up the post office, But if I had been in a different mood, that day, I would have been like, let me ask you something. Why the fuck do I have to come here and ask for you specifically to get this package when it's got the fucking address on it, or what address it is? Oh, yeah, it was very, very frustrating. But anyway, thank you, Jacoby, for sending this package. It has 1,000,000 different fucking comic books in it. Like, it's a stack that's just huge. It's like the stack that Steve Carell puts his head on in that Dan in Real Life poster. It's a huge. It's like bigger than that. Even it's bigger than that. He sent us a 7-page letter. It was very nice. So very much appreciate that you sent this. It was hell on earth for him to send it, because I've heard every bad detail about him sending it, and it was a pain in the ass to fucking get it. So
Jesus,
I'm glad we got it now. But anyway, thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
The important thing is that it inspired a Dan in Real Life reference.
It did.
I feel like that.
It did. That's the important thing.
That was really worth the whole thing.
Yep.
A Dan in Real Life reference, James Ehop reference.
Oh yeah.
Later in the show.
We're working on a different level. We're working on a different level today.
You know what I've been doing a lot lately is crossword puzzles, and I've found different synonyms for torn, like ripped and rift and stuff like that. And I'm trying to find a more elegant way to say that I'm torn between 2 rants, because I do kind of want to talk about the Oscars, which I think was a bit of a shit show, even more than normal. But look, there's 1 million people talking about the fucking Oscars. All right. Anthony Hopkins did nothing wrong. Chadwick Boseman and Riz Ahmed maybe too got hosed. We're always going to have those conversations. Move along. Everything's fine. What I do want to talk about is one central issue of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Chris, did you watch this?
I have not seen this series. No.
You didn't watch any of it so
No.
far? Okay.
No.
And Jeremy, I think you said that you've been spoiled for virtually everything, right?
Yeah, I know everything that happens in it.
Yeah, but you haven't seen the actual thing.
I haven't seen it.
I have to tell you, you're not missing much.
That's what I've heard.
I don't like these two characters, particularly Bucky, as we've detailed many times before. But I didn't like Wanda or Vision or really care about them all that much until I watched WandaVision, which I thought was a revelation. It ain't perfect, but I thought WandaVision was just a lot of fun. It was wholly original, very original.
Mhm.
And I think it delivered on a lot of the things that I wasn't even expecting.
Yeah.
I didn't even really expect anything from Falcon and Winter Soldier. Again, I don't have any connection really with either one of these things. I actively kind of hate Bucky's characters. Nothing to do with Sebastian Stan. I love him in The Martian. It's fine. But so, you know, and it opens up with a tremendous action scene in the beginning episode, and it sets up a few cool things. This miniseries or season 1 or whatever the fuck it is so short that they missed almost every opportunity. The whole thing, everybody knows by now, is that Falcon becomes Captain America. Okay? But he still has his Falcon wing. Right?
Son of a fucking bitch.
Yeah. He still has his Falcon wing. So it's like, all right, fine. They dove into Zemo's backstory here. They dove into kind of like his motivations moving forward. They dove into this, quote, terrorist organization led by the fantastic actress that played Enfys Nest in Solo. I forget her name, but she's terrific in this. They dove into systemic racism about a black super soldier who has now grown older and has been essentially discarded by the U.S. government. But they didn't tie up any of this stuff. They didn't. It's so frustrating. By the end of it, I'm like, why did I watch this? It's you know, it's an interstitial. It literally could be a post-credit scene in an Avengers movie, whereas WandaVision was a complete story. Now, it wasn't perfect. It didn't tie up everything. It didn't make sense all the time. But like, just give me, as Jeremy would say, something that coheses and something that makes sense. And sure, if you want to set up a million things for the next one, Julia Louis-Dreyfus is introduced in this series, which is a pleasure. But there ain't nothing about her character that I know. It's just set up for other stuff. So if you're going to do this, it ain't Thor: The Dark World bad, but it's not good. And I don't know why they did it. I understand that COVID had an impact, as it did with everything, on the filming, the availability, and stuff like that. But man, if you're not going to get this into a cohesive story, I don't know why you do it.
I think most of these Marvel shows are going to be bridges between various movies, and they're going to be hit or miss on whether they are good self-contained shows. So WandaVision, from all appearances, seems to be a good and self-contained show, but it's also clearly setting up, in my opinion, from what I haven't seen it, but I've read all about it, to set up Doctor Strange, giggity boogity, and maybe...
And it does both. Yes, it is a story
Spider-Man.
unto itself.
Yes. So
and
this is clearly
going
to set up future movies, and it just, again, from the sound of it, I have read, it's okay. That seems to be the general consensus, at least among people that I follow. Let's not fool ourselves. We're being given breadcrumbs and led down a path, and most of us are doing it willingly. And I think that's okay, as long as we understand what's going on. At least the first one out seems to have been a home run. But don't tell me this Loki show isn't being done to set up either some future technology or his appearance in a future movie or what have you. I'm sure they've got some insane board with thumbtacks and strings and You could
Oh,
never
I
make
guarantee.
any
I
fucking
guarantee.
sense of it
Yeah.
if you weren't them. And I just think some of them are going to be good, and some of them won't, and some of them are tryouts. I think to see how the audience likes more minor characters. Like we're getting a She-Hulk show, and I can't
I
help
thought
but
for a minute you said She-Hall.
Yeah. It's a bunch of women out there
We're
like
gonna
grinning and
revive Hee-Haw, but we're gonna call it
we're gonna
She-Haw.
gender flip it.
and
That'd be
the
awesome.
in-house band is going to be the Chicks.
Yes, exactly. Mm.
Yeah, I guess we've all been spoiled with Marvel content, because even when it's not great, like Iron Man 3, like it's a story, and yes, it does set up a lot of stuff in the future. Age of Ultron set up a bunch of stuff in the future, and I do not like that movie, but it is a story unto itself. You know what I mean? So I'm not used to Marvel and this is a lot of money they sunk into a tryout. You're absolutely right. But it's like, okay, all right. I have a lot more elan for the upcoming Loki show than I do for trying to get it up for Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Did they just make an action TV show with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or I mean, was it anything different really? Like it definitely wasn't the same sort of narrative arc that WandaVision had. But was it like watching an MCU movie in TV form, or what was it?
That's the problem. That's the central problem I think I have with it, is that yes, there were long stretches with no action though. The problem is, if they had done that, if they had done Lou Ferrigno's Hulk, or like the Fall Guy, or like the $6 Million Man, or something like that, or MacGyver,
Quincy MD.
If they had leaned into that action show aesthetic, it would have been, I think, a home run. And God bless them for trying to attack the issues of race and the issues of trauma and the issues of codependency and family and stuff like that. I applaud that. But man, I think you could lean more into the more populist stuff, or decide you're going to go like WandaVision and dive into that grief shit like fucking head first and really go into it, and that pays off too. So I think they were right in the middle of all that, and I just don't know why. That's my issue. I wasted, I don't know, 4.5 hours of my life watching this show.
Yeah.
I feel like I was rewarded.
So we are going to revisit one of our categories, one of our topics that we've done in the past. It's the heart of the movie.
We've got heart.
You got heart, kid.
That thing in my chest.
Yeah.
Where we pick, we try to pick something from a movie that we think if you took it out, that movie is completely different. That movie's not the same. We have, I think all three of us come up with our own sort of definitions for what the heart of the movie is. Sometimes it's an important scene. Sometimes it's, the scene that shows the most heart. Sometimes it's a lesser, looked upon scene, as, that if you took it out, it wouldn't be the same. So, who wants to start us off on this topic?
Barrett does.
All right.
Barrett.
Just recently rewatched Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Max.
Now this is, if I'm understanding correctly, Jeremy, like you really like this movie, right?
Oh yeah. I really like it. I think Almost Famous is better, but if you're talking about the best Cameron Crowe movies, I would say this is up there for sure.
Yeah. Chris, do you like this? You like this movie, right?
Yeah. I there was a time I saw this movie. I used to watch this movie a lot. I think I used to have it like on DVD. I can't remember if I did or not, but I used to watch this pretty decent amount of time. But yeah, I like it.
This movie is most famous really for 4 lines, right? Help me, help you, show me the money, you complete me, and you had me at hello.
Mm-hmm.
And shoplifting the pootie from a single mom.
Shoplifting the pootie. Shoplifting the pootie. I did not shoplift the pootie.
What's funny is the Cameron Crowe was hoping that Quan would be the thing that people got out of that movie. He was hoping he was trying to make Quan happen, and Quan didn't happen.
It's funny because all those lines revolve around Tom Cruise, Cuba Gooding Jr., and Renee Zellweger. Rightfully so. They are spectacular. All of them, of course. Cuba Gooding Jr. won the Academy Award that year. I don't think Tom Cruise was even nominated, was he? For that, that
he's
part?
only been nominated 3 times, maybe.
Yeah, and he's terrific in this.
Born on the 4th of July, Magnolia, maybe something else in there. Maybe a few good.
Rain Man?
Rain Man might. No, he may not have been. Let me look it up real quick, so that we're not sitting here doing this. I don't think he was. I think he's always been. Yeah, I think he's always been perpetually underrated in Rain Man. We always, think of him as being nominated, but I don't think he was. Magnolia, no, Jerry Maguire. Yeah, he has been, and Born on the 4th of July. Okay, so he was nominated.
I see. Well, Berkshire, Jerry Maguire. He's spectacular in this. Renee Zellweger is spectacular in this. Bonnie Hunt, by the way, is spectacular in this. And Cuba Gooding Jr. is spectacular. This is a really, really good movie. And if you haven't watched it in a while, I would encourage you to go back. But here's the heart of the movie for me. Jerry is a big old dickhead. That was a Primus song. Jerry was a big old dickhead.
Yep.
He's a big old dickhead all the way up until the very end of the movie. Spoiler. He's always out for himself, even when he's trying to help Rod Tidwell, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character. He's in it for himself. He's in it to get his cut of this thing. He allows or he recruits Renee Zellweger's character to go with him to the Jerry Maguire Paper Company, even though he knows that she has a kid and she's a single mom and she's young and he has no way to pay her. He's in it for himself the whole time. And the only breadcrumb that allows you to really tap into his humanity from the fairly beginning, about the first third of the movie, is his relationship with Dorothy's child, with Renee Zellweger's character's child, played adorably by Jonathan Lipnicki, who's the character Ray. He's the kid with the spiky hair that's all like, he's probably like 49 now, and that you all know and love. And what I didn't remember until the last time I watched this is how authentic that relationship felt. Jerry and him get along from the get-go. And this is not a dude that likes kids. He's a sports agent. He's slick. He fucks everything that moves. He makes money. He makes deals. And like the chemistry between those two, even when he comes over to Dorothy's house and he's hammered, but Ray comes out and sits on the couch with him and tells him about a zoo. And he's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And that relationship stays consistent the whole time. Everybody remembers he and Dorothy, he and Renee Zellweger getting together and smooching and the completing and the shit like that. Mm-hmm. But man, the best part and the heart of this whole thing is that relationship. I think that is the relationship, he with Ray. That relationship is the anchor that holds down that entire humanity. I think without that kid and without that relationship, or he could have just shown up and been just a regular kid. And, he's adorable and goes off. No, they worked on that relationship. And that is the anchor that allows you to think Jerry's probably a decent dude, because nothing else in that movie really points to that. So that to me is the heart of the movie. I think I could be completely off.
That's no, I think that's good. Yeah.
This is what I love about the topic. Like Chris said at the outset, is we all have sort of variations in how we define the heart of the movie. And I think even within our own choices, we sometimes slide a little bit along the scale about what qualities we're looking for. And I think you're right. Like if you want to give me any foreshadowing that he's going to end up a decent guy, it's going to be in these scenes. And you're right. Their chemistry is crazy. crazy good. Even in the car when they're just throwing out, trivia back and forth at
The
each other.
human head weighs 8.5 pounds. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, Pete Rose got this many hits and he's not in the Hall of Fame.
It's not in the Hall of Fame.
But he's not antagonistic about it. Like, they're having an actual conversation.
Yeah.
And that is the key, man. That's the little lock to his heart right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Good call. I'm going back to my youth. I'm going to do The Hunt for Red October.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah.
Probably heard me talk about this movie before, or us. I know it's one of Chris's favorites as well.
Mm-hmm.
This would be definitely in my top 10 of all time, both in my favorites and in how many times I've seen it. It's literally one of those, if I'm scrolling on the guide and I see it, I click and watch, even if only for the next big scene or what have you. So many great action scenes, so many great performances, so many great fucking camera angles. Somehow underwater submarine action looks suspenseful and looks real. There's a lot to like about this movie. The basic premise, if you've never watched it, which I'm sure plenty of you have not, is that there's a Russian sub that's gone missing, and the Russians are telling America, we're gonna go out and sink it. So the Americans are like, oh fuck, it's gonna come over and bomb us. And this is in the Cold War in the 80s. No, it's actually the 90s. But
way back when Russia and America were enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
right.
yes,
It's a long time ago.
Way back when we legitimately lived in fear of nuclear weapons being used, which I think might be coming back into fashion, unfortunately. But there's one man, I tell you, Jack Ryan, brainy book writer for the CIA, who has a theory that sub's commander might be trying to defect.
Mm-hmm.
Sub commander is Sean Connery, and the rest of the adventure is, he's given a certain amount of time and one chance to try and go make contact, find this fucking submarine, and then make contact, find out if it's a defection. Otherwise, the U.S. is going to help the Russians blow it out of the water. And there's a scene in the middle of this movie before Jack Ryan has gotten there out onto the sub. But one of the Russians have found, via a sonar buoy, the Red October. And Red October is about to go into this deep underwater trench formation the Americans call Red Route 1, which is this hyper-detailed mapped area of trenches that allows the Russians to get from one portion of the northern Atlantic to another portion, and the Americans can't go there, and it's hard for even most Russian subs to do this.
Is that is it the Laurentian Abyssal or whatever?
No, that's the place they go at the end. This is the Thor's Twins is the start of the
right. Yeah.
And so basically everyone's nervous. They don't think it's a drill anymore. At least they're not sure. And they're going about their business to do this super, super narrow run through the trenches. And the guy keeping time says, basically, okay, it's time to turn. And Sean Connery says, no, just wait. And there's a missile behind him. And the dude's like, we got to turn, dog. And Sean Connery's like, you're relieved. Basically, gets really short with the guy. And finally, when everyone is panicking, but quietly, he says, turn now, and gives the instruction, and everybody panics, and they turn the fucking submarine, and the missile ends up hitting the rocks that they barely turned and missed because he waited to make that turn, and it dragged the missile with them. And this is the heart of the movie. This is where he demonstrates he knows more than you. Do not take this man for granted. Whatever they throw at him, he's got something he can throw back. And he demonstrates this a few more times. Later at the end of the movie, he makes a maneuver that everyone on board thinks is suicide. And it ends up being genius. And that's foreshadowed and underscored by this run through Red Route 1, where he just by feel, knows when to turn submarine. Gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. There are a lot of great scenes. There are a lot of great moments, but this movie is, I think, about him more than it is about Jack Ryan, even though I think Jack Ryan has a little more screen time. Jack Ryan is sort of the stand-in for us, really. And it's Sean Connery who I think has a deeper character. They're both great performances, don't take me wrong. But we're rooting for him. We're not rooting for Alec Baldwin's character to be right. We're rooting for the Russian guy to live and defect and get away from the Soviet regime. It's one of my very favorite movies ever, and I think that's the heart of it.
Nice.
The other thing that scene accomplishes, I believe they refer to this later, is not only does he know more, but it also puts doubt, even though the maneuver is successful and it's amazing, it puts doubt in the crewman as to his sanity.
Yes,
he's got a double-edged kind of sword going on with that scene because he seems like the crazy captain who's ready to just do whatever the Russians are saying that he's planning on doing, because he's unhinged and everything. I will say this. I completely agree with you that this movie is more about him than it is Jack Ryan, but we are definitely rooting for Jack Ryan to be right, because there are if he's not, and he doesn't do the things that he does, then the Red October is getting shot down,
but his being right is achieved 2/3 of the way through the movie. Mm-hmm. And from then on, we're really rooting for, all of them, obviously. And of course, he gets his adventure in the missile room, and we're definitely rooting for him there. I don't think I phrased that very well. I just think he's the stepping stone to the true ultimate conclusion we want to see happen. But you're right, that can't happen if he doesn't get out there and make contact with the boat and all that shit. God, this
is one of those great movies where the protagonist is right, but you understand why everybody is resistant to what he's saying, because if you were in those positions, you wouldn't take that seriously either, because that is an out of nowhere thing. And movies have this tendency to make it seem like those people out there, like the Scott Glenns in this movie, these people are antagonists, but they're not. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do in this situation. And you can't fault them for it. That's another thing that's great about that movie. McTiernan was on a different level back in this day and age. That is a top-notch action movie, and if you want to know why Cinemasins get so upset about the action movies we see today, watch fucking Hunt for Red October and tell me that that's not better than every fucking thing that you've seen in the last 20 years. Yeah. I'm talking about big-budget studio movies here. I was wondering what the heart of Hoosiers was, because Hoosiers is all heart, right? Hoosiers is a heart movie. There are a lot of scenes that I considered, like Jimmy Chitwood coming in and saying, I'll play only if the coach stays, and if he's gone, I'm not playing. That's a big one. That's a big part. I don't think it's the heart of the movie though. There's a moment where Gene Hackman comes in with the team. They're about to play the championship. They're in the Hoosier Dome, and there's the basketball court, and he does the measurements, and he shows them that this is the exact same height as the goals at Hickory that they play. That's a great scene. I considered that not the heart of the movie for me. The heart of the movie for me is when Gene Hackman benches a player who doesn't pass in the movie. He benches this player because he's told him you need to pass. He wants to have the 3-pass thing. This guy keeps on going up to the 3-point line. I don't even know if it's a 3-point line back then. And at least he's at the arc, and he just pulls up and shoots a lot. Finally, he just pulls the dude out, and they only have six players on this team at this point. So they have the 5 players and this guy who's been benched, and somebody fouls out on the team. So that leaves them with 4. And of course, dude who's been benched starts taking his jacket off and is about to go back out on the court. And Gene Hackman tells him to stay there on the chair. He's not going anywhere. And the ref comes over and says, "Coach, need another player." And he goes, "My team is on the floor." Yeah. And the ref's like, "Well, okay," and goes back on. So he's just going to play with 4 players because he believes in this so much. And then all the people from Hickory are like just booing him and like, what the fuck is this bullshit and everything. And they love this little motion that Hackman does. He's got his like little playbook notebook thing, and he just like waves it in the air a little bit, just like, I'm sticking to this, God damn it, basically is what he's saying, you know. And he's like, I know, I hear it, I hear you, but I'm not going to let this fucker play because I told him to pass. That is the heart of Hoosiers to me. It tells you everything you need to know about that movie, about what Norman Dale's philosophy is about the team and how he gets that team reined in and everything. He's like, I don't give a fuck if I lose this game. I don't care if I look stupid doing it. Fucking pass, asshole.
What he had written on the whiteboard in the locker room.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good one. I like that pick. I like that pick.
I did too. I went back and watched underrated comedy gem, I Love You Man, recently.
Oh, yeah.
Fish
Paul
tacos,
Rudd and
baby.
Jason Segel. I've always had a bit of an issue with I Love You Man because I really do like it. I really do. And I think it's hilarious. It's got some huge belly laughs. Jon Favreau's character, Jamie Press's character in there. Jon Favreau's such a dick. It's so great. Yeah. At one point he leans over to Jamie Press. He's like, I don't think she sucks his dick. It's so good. J.K. Simmons is great in that. Like Jane Curtin. Everybody's good. And actually Rashida Jones is great in this too, I should say. I always thought that there was a bit of artifice to Jason Segel's performance. Like he's a little too chill, especially at the end. But what happens so Paul Rudd, the conceit is Paul Rudd's character is a ladies' man in the sense that he doesn't have any male friends. Right? And so they set him up to go on dates. Andy Samberg plays his gay brother who recruits straight dudes to go hang out with him. And so he goes through the series and everything, and Paul Rudd is trying to sell a house. He's a real estate agent. And when he goes to the first open house for this big house that he has to sell, Jason Segel's there. And this is after he's gone through this montage of bro dates, basically, right? And he's acting all weird and Paul Ruddy and like nerdy and nervous and stuff. And as soon as he starts talking to Jason Segel's like, here's what's going to happen. This dude's not going to buy your house. He's trying to impress this lady he's with. He's holding in a fart right now. And they do a close up on the butt cheeks and he's all clenched and everything. And Paul Rudd is just fascinated with this. He's like, yeah, he is clenching. And then all of a sudden, like he sends her off and the girl goes that way. And then like once she goes off, he releases. Jason Segel's like, boom, fart, motherfucker.
He's like, he did. He totally farted right there.
He cried. He's out there crop dusting your open house. But like, it's one of the only times where I think this whole thing is Paul Rudd. His character is completely, free of the nervousness and the tics. It's just a very real moment that sets the stage for their relationship going forward. It shows that Jason Segel is smarter than your average bear, and he's invested in kind of like sharing his story with Paul Rudd. And it shows that Paul Rudd is just like, all right, I can let my guard down a little bit and we can have fun at this absurd thing that's happening here. And it doesn't hold up all the way through, but man, that's a fart, motherfucker, is like my favorite part. That is maybe the weirdest part of the movie that I've ever done, but that is the key to that relationship, I think, is them sharing a laugh over something completely absurd and nobody having any kind of weird neologisms that they come up with, or like fucking nicknames like Job and
Well, yeah, it also shows that that you can't just set up dates or whatever, or try to like make a friendship happen.
Yeah,
like these things happen because of innocuous things like that. A lot of times, I think that's
genuine connection.
As Vulgarian as this heart of the movie is, it is exactly. I think you're exactly right about this, because that's like I said, you just the whole idea of any kind of blind date type of thing working out is minuscule. So to have it happen here organically, it's definitely, I like that a lot.
That movie's funny.
It's awesome.
It's not perfect, but it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk a little bit more again about the talented Mr. Ripley.
No, Hunt for Red October and the talented Mr. Ripley. No.
I went to my sweet spot for this episode of Heart of the Movie. I love this movie. I love the talented Mr. Ripley, and I almost went with a pair of bookended hearts that I want to talk about before I get into what I ultimately chose. There are two moments where Tom Ripley essentially ascends to street level from a basement of a building in a form of rebirth. In the first one, it's in the beginning of the movie. He's been hired by the dad, and the dad's limo comes to pick him up. And it shows you how shitty his apartment is. A couple arguing, the walls are shaking, the lights are always coming and going. So we get a shot of him with suitcases coming up the stairs from this basement shitty apartment. And the dialogue in that limo scene is all about how he's a new man now. The dude's like, hey, the Greenleaf name was going to open a lot of doors for you. That $1,000 is going to come in pretty handy, isn't it? And he's a new man now, right? He was a nobody before, and now he's a somebody. Near the end of the movie, after he's killed Dickie and Freddie and been interrogated by the cops, and it's pretty obvious the cops think he did it, they come for him. And it shows him escaping just in time. He actually hides and turns off the light, and you see the red and blue lights outside, and he kind of watches for a bit, and then he sneaks up the stairs into this alley and is born anew as he goes to a different part of Italy to live as Dickie Greenleaf for a while.
I didn't even realize that.
I think, well, it took me watching it probably 30 times to even spot that, which is why I'm not the guy that makes movies, right? Like when Dicer was talking about Bad Times at El Royale to me and all the symbolism, I was like, shit, dude, I just thought it was a stylish thriller. I would never, I don't pick that kind of stuff out. But the heart of this movie, I think, is after he's killed Dickie in the boat and swum to shore, sunk the boat, he goes back to the hotel, still wet, all in a huff, in a tizzy. He's just committed murder. And the guy thinks he's Dickie because he's going to ask for his key. And the guy behind the desk says, Monsieur Greenleaf, or whatever. It's not Monsieur's French. Anyway, and he pauses. He's like, yeah, I'm him. And it's the moment he realizes, and we realize, he's now both people, given the circumstance. And it's where he realizes he can get away. Early in the movie, he flirts with passing himself off as Dickie when he meets Meredith, when he's first coming into Italy. And he's dabbled there. And this is where he realizes, I can do this for real now. There is no more Dickie. As long as I avoid the 3 or 4 people who know exactly what he looks like, I can pass myself off as him. And he spends the rest of the movie alternately doing that, juggling those two realities, those two personalities. That's really what the movie is about. It's him embracing this darker side of, he's always been a liar, but now he's a murdering liar. and it's a whole other thing.
Has he always been a liar? Like, is he inherently a bad
I think so,
character,
absolutely.
do you think?
Well, first of all, he's borrowing this jacket to even play this gig as a favor to somebody who can't play the gig. So he starts the movie presenting himself to everyone, us and the characters, as someone he's not. And then as soon as the song is over, Mr. Greenleaf says, "You went to Princeton. You must know my son, Dickie." And he lies. He says, "How is Dickie?" And that's it. We never know Tom Ripley in this movie as anything but a liar. Because he then studies all about jazz and goes to Italy and lies to Dickie about why he's there, and then uses the truth to his own advantage by saying, "Your dad sent me here. Let's spend his money," to further his lie. He's about to leave, and he drops the records so Dickie will see the records and they can bond over jazz so he can extend his stay. He's the liar through and through, but it's this moment that he realizes, I can do this forever.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's based on that series of novels that Patricia Highsmith wrote, and I believe The Talented Mr. Ripley was the first one. I don't think that necessarily means that this is the first time he's ever attempted a lie like this. It's just the first time we're being introduced to his character, I don't think you can lie with that kind of skill without having done it before. So I'm going to guess that if you were to give some backstory, and I've never read the books on these things, and the movie itself doesn't delve deeply into his past or anything, but I'm going to assume that he's been doing stuff like this since he was, 8 years old or whatever. He's like Frank Abagnale and Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
He's sort of learned how to do this type of stuff, and now that he's 20, 21, 22, whatever, he's become really frighteningly good at it. Is what I would give his backstory if I someone asked.
That movie's sultry. I would call that movie sultry.
It has its steam.
A lot of sexiness in that movie.
It has its steam for sure, and it goes in all directions. It flies around amongst everyone. That's what I like about the movie, is that, I'm sorry, well, I'm going to keep talking about this movie for a minute, is that he's not all wrong in that final argument with Dickie when he ends up killing him, because that scene where they play chess when Dickie's in the tub is sultry. It's sexy. There's like heat there, and he brings it up. He's like, you can't be honest with yourself. Like that night when we played chess, I know there was something there. And Dickie just keeps saying, boring. Because Dickie is honestly as big an asshole, if not more.
Yes, he is.
He doesn't kill people, but he's abhorrent. But the movie gives you just enough reason to root for him that it allows him to remain the protagonist, even if he's the bad guy ultimately.
Yeah. We'll dial it back a year and go on the Truman Show. Like, what is the heart of the Truman Show? There's plenty of places.
Your left shoulder.
That's right. You could, what would you pick in that? There's a lot of scenes in the Truman Show that you could possibly say are the heart, but I settled on the moment that he's in his car in the driveway, and Meryl, his wife, played by Laura Linney, comes in and asks him what he's doing, and he goes, "I predict in the next few seconds." He predicts the order of the car, and I think the bike. There's a guy on a bicycle, and then a dented Beetle is the last thing, and so he predicts this, and it doesn't go exactly to plan because it doesn't go exactly at the time that he wanted it to. But all the cars that came through that he said would come through, they do. And Meryl, of course, ever the actress who's been doing this for years and years and years, tries to pretend like that's not a big deal at all. And it leads to him driving her around the city. And he's like, all right, we're gonna leave this place or whatever. And she's doing her usual thing, like, ha, 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 we're totally not gonna go somewhere else, and everything. And then as we find out that Christoph is doing throughout this movie, he is putting blockers in front of him throughout this entire thing to make sure that he doesn't leave the city. So there's like suddenly a bunch of cars come in front of him in traffic, and he turns around, he drives around, he comes back to the same road, and he's like, and there's no cars there. He's like, look, same road, no cars. It's a miracle. And so he drives and he starts going towards where you're getting out of the city limits and everything. And then there's that bogus government thing that's going on where everybody's in hazmat suits and everything. And like, there's it's a chemical plant or something on fire or some crap that they made up. And it's like an officer comes up to him and says, "Oh yeah, man, we're gonna have to block the road. Nobody's gonna be able to get through here for blah 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 blah." And he goes, "Thank you, officer." And the officer goes, "No problem, Truman," and walks off. and Truman goes, "Truman." Then there's that great Philip Glass score that comes in so right after.
I got goosebumps right now, actually.
and he starts running, and like the hazmat suit guys all surround him. It's like a fucking nightmare ET scene or whatever.
Yeah.
To me, this is the part where Truman has officially decided there's definitely something fucked up going on here and it all concerns me, and I don't know what it is. It's the paranoia that I think a lot of people feel sometimes. That's what's so great about the Truman Show, is that even though none of us are on a 24-hour, reality show, at least I don't think.
Right.
I think a lot of people do think that, because you sit there and go, why did that happen? Why does this always happen to me? Why does this thing happen? Why does this and that? But he has found it out, because there's some things that just don't make sense in his life, and that he's going out there and challenging those things and realizing that a lot of this doesn't make any sense. To me, that's the heart of the movie. It's a long heart of the movie. It probably lasts 5 to 10 minutes. What I've just described. But that's one of my favorite scenes in that movie.
Is everybody except Truman and Pretty Eyes a villain in this movie? I feel like the actors. Debatable. I feel like the actors are just as culpable as Christoph. Like the woman that plays his wife is just as culpable as Christoph. She knows he's captive. She knows he's not getting to live a real life.
There was a thing I read. I think it was Noah Emmerich who plays his buddy in that movie. Said something. Somebody asked him about his character in that movie a few years after it came out, and he said that a lot of people think that he's a huge villain in that movie, but think about, he's had to be this. He was a child actor told to befriend Truman early on in his life, and he's had to keep up this subterfuge for years and years and years, and probably even cares about Truman, but can't ever tell him about this secret, because that's the rule that he's going through. I don't know about the Laura Linney character, because they introduce her, I think, when he's in high school. So there's not nearly the same amount of foundation of years and everything that they have. But the Noah Emmerich character has been with him for nearly his entire life. So there is an argument to be said that even his character is kind of a victim. But he does indeed choose not to ever reveal the secret. That's sort of you can call that a conflicted villain if you want.
I'd go so far in my moral view to call all the people watching the show just as culpable as Christoph and the actors on the show, because
for sure
driving it. But that is there's varying degrees of culpability there, I think, because that does, you forget about that he was a child actor who probably didn't have any agency anyway. And it is different than some of the guy that plays his boss at the insurance company or whatever, who just is knowingly taking advantage of this captive dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for sure a lot of these people are, I have a job acting. I don't want to ruin that, all that. Now the people on the outside, there are a lot of people on the outside who want to tell him, but they're in this dome. Yeah. And some of the people who have gotten inside get immediately arrested and sent out. And you have the guy jumping out of the Christmas gift. You have Natasha McMahony.
I'm on TV.
Yeah, on the Truman Show. You have the Natasha McElhoney character who, of course, wants to tell him, but is having a hard time. Like, she's trying to stay within the rules, but there's an actual real chemistry there where, she finally wants to get him on the beach and tell him that he's on a TV show before he leaves. And then there's the guy playing his dad wants to tell him that, all of this is going on. So, or was that? Yeah, was that what happened? That was what the dad
did for when he got kicked off the show, and then they brought him back.
So there were several people who have tried, but it's hard. It's hard for the people on the outside to actually help him. So a lot of people, I think, this is I guess a good discussion to have. A lot of people feel helpless to be able, they don't have any way of helping him. So why don't we just be entertained at while we're at it, see what happens? They're just kind of like, I can't do anything about this. I mean, they could choose not to watch, sure. But it became such a big part of everybody's lives and everything. That's what's kind of funny about the ending of that movie is all the people who we've been following watching it. The security guards was like, well, what else is on? All right, well, I think it's
yeah. I wish we got this and Ed TV in the same season. Two different takes on a similar concept, one straight comedy and one more dramatic. And I always felt like there was a third missing that veered hard into that paranoia, thriller, horror element of what it might be like to slowly realize you're not actually paranoid. Everyone here is against you. I think that could be a whole different, not that I want to see a Truman Show remake or anything. I'm just saying it's such a fascinating concept and there's so many different ways to tackle it.
This is Invasion of the Body Snatchers and The Invisible Man from a couple years ago, right? There is no possible way. This is totally self-serving, particularly in Invisible Man. This is totally your trauma talking. There are a million explanations for what she is going through. Nobody should believe her, right? Yeah. But that's why it so just makes you clench your butt cheeks all the way through, because it's like, I understand why everybody's doubting you. What possible fucking explanation would you have for this? It's just I love that movie. I watched it again a couple nights ago. Yeah, it's good.
All right, everybody, it's time to talk about BetterHelp.
Yes, it is. You people, go on and sign up. You having problems, or you dealing with anger, stress, anxiety, sadness, depression, addiction, problems with being able to communicate. BetterHelp is a great option, especially even though we're on what seems like the far side of this whole pandemic thing, which was hard on virtually everyone. I keep hearing stories about how just now the stress of the pandemic has really finally hit home to a lot of people who had just basically been kind of going through the motions, keeping their head down and doing their thing. Just now that we're kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, people are like, oh my God. And the stress is really wearing them down. BetterHelp is an online counseling site where you answer a few questions, you log in, and you get matched to a licensed professional counselor. And you're on your way at that point. They communicate with you in your counseling room. You have the schedule up there. They can send you information about what you guys are talking about. Even within a session that I was in, my counselor sent me some stuff that she said, if you got time, go ahead and look through this. And it's something like that BetterHelp has, where you don't have to leave your own home. You don't have to deal with several different people to even get to your counselor. It is, as they say, one-stop shopping, but just for something that is incredibly important to you, your mental health.
I think that I want to speak today to kindred spirits. My biggest, I have some depression issues, but my biggest mental health issue is anxiety, which went unnoticed and undiagnosed by me and my wife for years, just because a lot of times the symptoms don't, on the surface, seem to suggest a mental health thing. But I wanted to, this is from BetterHelp's own website, by the way. Their website has a bunch of useful information too when you're not scheduling your next session. But here are some signs of anxiety, and I want to speak to people who usually breeze through these ads without paying that much attention, because you may not realize you're dealing with anxiety. So these are the most common: excessive worrying, difficulty sleeping, restlessness, fatigue, issues concentrating, irritability and tension, increased heart rate and palpitations. That was me. Hello. Sweating, hot flashes, trembling or shaking, chest pains, shortness of breath, feelings of terror or impending doom. You don't have to have all of those, and not having one of those does not necessarily mean you have an anxiety disorder.
Very important. Yeah.
But I think there are millions, not necessarily listening to this show. I'm sure there are millions listening to this show, but I think there are millions of people out there who have undiagnosed, unrealized anxiety disorders. And BetterHelp is a great place for you to get treatment for that.
Yep. From your own home, tablet, phone, laptop, desktop, Commodore 64, whatever you got, you can connect with BetterHelp. Go to BetterHelp, HELP.com/SinCast. Get 10% off your first month. And if you're having issues with payment, let them know. And they have people that actually help you with that. It's amazing. I've used it for well over a year now, and I cannot recommend this enough. Go to BetterHelp.com/SinCast. Do it now. Do you want to go into questions, or do you want to do recommends and warns?
Let's do recommends and warns.
Totes Amazeballs.
They're great.
It won the Academy Award.
Oh, for what?
For best movie ever made.
Okay. I got recommended a movie called Capricorn One. Peter Hyams directed this, of Time Cop fame. No, the movie came out in, I believe, 1978, although you'll see 77 on the IMDb, but I believe the official release dates were in 1978. This is about a mission to Mars that gets scrapped, but there are powers that be that want everybody to be fooled that the mission is going to happen, so that they will continue getting funding. The astronauts are played by James Brolin, Sam Waterston, and O.J. Simpson.
Oh, wow.
All right.
You know you're in a different era when O.J. Simpson is one of your main actors. Hal Holbrook is the guy who wants to make sure that this mission seems like it's being that it's actually being run, and so they shoot the rocket up. NASA does, I think, assuming that the astronauts are still in there. I don't know how Hal Holbrook made it so that they still read the three astronauts in the ship. I don't know how all of that is. He's definitely still fooling people at NASA as well during this. He brings them into a room and tells them, a company that made this life preserving thing for your ship did it cheaply, and that's why we were able to buy so many of them, and they got rich doing it. But we found out just before this launch, maybe months before or whatever, that you would have died if we had let you have those suits on while being on Mars. And we don't want the bad publicity from a bad launch, obviously, and we didn't want to send you out there and then you die, of course, and then we lose money over it. Basically, what it comes down to. He takes them to a bunker of some sort of an old military base where they have set up a whole backdrop where it looks like the surface of Mars and everything. And so that they can do these reports where they're coming down from their ship and land and walking on Mars and everything. And so they can show that on TV. And so this is like the first, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes of the movie. The whole thing is they've made this seem like a launch. Everybody in the world believes it. And then on the way back, they've decided, because of some rumblings they've heard from James Brolin is like, I don't want to tell my family that we did this and we didn't do this. And they hear some of these rumblings, some of these people who are the shadowy figures behind this hear this, and they're like, we're probably going to have to kill these people anyway. So on the re-entry, they make up a whole thing about the heat shield being defective, and that that the ship disintegrated when it came back into the earth and everything. So that leaves them they need to escape. They need to find a way to get out. They need to, like, as soon as somebody from the city sees us, they'll know that this was total bullshit and everything. But that's not as easy as it sounds. They take a ship, they fly off to some place in the desert. They separate, all three of them separate and go their different ways, trying to find a place where eventually they'll be found. And of course, the government is hot on their heels. Helicopters are flying around trying to find them in the desert and everything. Capricorn One is really good. I will say this about the movie. It became one of the hallmarks of people who believe in the moon landing being faked. It was, I don't know if it was, I don't think it was the reason, but it was a movie that came out where people started realizing, hey, they could have faked the moon landing. and it started to seed in people's heads about how this type of thing would happen and everything. So there is a negative aspect to this movie. Some other people that are in this, Elliot Gould is in this, plays a reporter. Nice. Elliot Gould is Elliot Gould in the 70s is fucking amazing, man.
Yeah,
like, I mean, everything that totally. He is just great in the like, he's always great, but in the 70s in particular, there's something captured with him that you can see why he was in so many things back in the 70s. But he's great in this. And Hal Holbrook is of course always great, but Capricorn One. It's a good movie, man. Go watch.
That's one of my favorite little things in sneakers is Dan Aykroyd just dropping baseless conspiracy theories. So he's like, same people that faked the moon landing. Yeah. It's how they framed Pete Rose. They framed Pete Rose. And I know Sidney Poitier is sick of his bullshit, but like River Phoenix is kind of like his compatriot, right? He's just kind of like, he kind of goes along with it. He's like, all right.
Your husband knows. Yeah. The CIA has been suppressing cow mutilations for years.
Yes. I love his character. He's sneaky had like an amazing, weird acting career too. You know, love me some Danny.
That's the thing about Capricorn One, by the way, that it fits into the paranoia thrillers of the 70s. It goes right along all those 3 Days of the Condor type movies. It's just that there's a more space element to it and everything. Because you could better believe there's a lot of scenes in there where people are getting arrested for no reason and threatened and everything to keep the secret. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, interesting. I'm gonna go on a positive note. I'm gonna start on a positive note. Back a while ago on this show, 3-4 years ago, I was talking about The Rookie and was encouraging Chris to watch The Rookie. And I think at some point around that time, I tweeted about The Rookie. It's a baseball movie with Dennis Quaid. And around that time, Aaron Dicer, our friend and compatriot, said, hey, $1 Million Arm is also really good. And I watched it, and I really liked it, and promptly forgot about it. Flash forward to about 2 weeks ago, I caught it again, and I loved it. And I liked it so much that I talked my wife into watching it, a baseball movie. And she loved it because ultimately this movie is it's not as much about baseball as it seems on the surface. It's much more about culture and how to learn to care about somebody from a different culture. Have you guys seen this movie?
No, but you talked about this actually for some reason in a recent podcast.
You mentioned the recap at the end of The Real People.
Right, that's right. That's right.
Their stuff. Yeah,
I was talking about the chess movie, and so this is based on a true story. John Hamm plays this guy whose sports agency is struggling. Like Jerry Maguire, he and his partner are trying to land one big client to keep their agency alive because they don't have any clients. And the guy plays them and goes with another agency, and they're like screwed. And so John Hamm is flipping channels, and he sees some Indian cricket being played, and then he sees Susan Boyle on British People Can Sing Good, and he keeps flipping back and forth, and he gets this idea to do a big publicized $1 million reality competition to find cricket players that he can turn into Major League Baseball pitchers. So the first part of the movie is him having culture shock, going over to India and experiencing a variety of things that are different about life in India as he tries to find somebody who can throw a baseball hard enough. And he feels like he can teach the technique after that. He's got Alan Arkin is here, almost playing the same character he played in Tone from Argo. And he's there because he's, what is he? Some kind of old baseball scout who's come out of retirement because nobody else is willing to do it.
Can you hear a curveball?
Well, no, but he can hear the juice.
Nice.
Nice. He actually can. His character can tell how fast the ball was pitched by hearing, how the sound of the ball going into the mitt, and just deal with that. Accept that. Don't let that derail the movie for you.
Deal with that.
And of course, everyone is terrible. Nobody knows how to throw a baseball. He has a super fan who's heard about the competition and offers his services because he wants to be a baseball player and he wants to learn about baseball. And eventually, through much turmoil, after traveling all through the country, they do find two kids who can throw in like the low to mid 80s with moderate accuracy. And then it becomes the reverse culture shock movie as he brings these kids to the U.S. For months because the whole idea was trying to do it in a year. And that eventually gets pushed up to trying to do it in 6 months, which is absurd. Bill Paxton is in this movie as a pretty straightforward, kind of crusty pitching coach who has some pretty good lines. And then Lake Bell, do you know who that is?
Yeah, I do.
She is the tenant at John Hamm's house. So she lives in the mini house behind the house. And so basically the rest of it, I don't really want to spoil what happens. It is based on a true story, so you can look it up. But it's not as much about baseball as that makes it sound. It is much more about how selfish the John Hamm character is this whole time, because he's really only in it because if he succeeds, this saves his agency and he gets a longer contract with the guy that's paying him to do it. And it takes him a while to realize the important thing is to care about the people he's brought over here, taken away from their homes and their families. It got me at the end when I watched it with my wife. This was my third time watching it. And I'm watching it with my wife, and it gets to the end. They get their big tryout. They've already had one mess up, and it's time for John Hamm to go give him a talking to, like a pep talk. And he sends out the kid that volunteered his services who wants to be a baseball player or a coach one day, the fellow Indian guy, and says, you go out there and you pep talk him. And the guy gives this pep. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, because he basically talks about, I'm realizing I'm never going to be a baseball player. I might get to coach one day, but I'm too small. I don't have the talent. And then he gets choked up saying, I'm living my dream through you right now. And it's this great, it's great. It's great. It's not a baseball movie. My wife adored it, and she could give a rat's ass about baseball. It's just baseball as a backdrop for, a really human story about overcoming cultural differences to make new friends. And I give it 2 thumbs up. I adored it. There you go. That's my official recommend.
Need to watch this. You said ever since you brought this up, however many weeks ago it was. I did the same with The Rookie, however long ago that was that you brought that up, and watched it and loved The Rookie. So I'm sure this is good too. So
I think you guys would both like it. Yeah, and it's a Disney movie. It's totally, safe for the family and all that jazz. You're not going to find any nudity, any F-bombs.
Okay,
F-bombs
during the nudity. It's a little bit lower on the queue now, but I'll watch it.
I have a Rekka Warren that you could see coming a mile away, and it's not based on a true story. It's called Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat!
Oh, geez. Okay, so this came out last week as we record this. HBO Max was going to be theatrical. It's a Warner Brothers release. One of those millions that they keep shoving over to the streaming services. Did come out in theaters, too. I actually would have loved to have seen this on a big screen with a full audience. This would be that kind of movie. All right, movie. This blows, okay? This movie is stupid. This movie is just absolutely fucking trash. I fucking loved it. I loved it. We all grew up in the era. Now, I don't know if you guys were able to, because of parental restrictions, were you guys able to play Mortal Kombat? They had the standees at the arcade.
Out of the first Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
I played the shit out of it and watched the movie, and I wasn't like a big, huge, had posters all around my room or anything like that, but I played the arcade game quite a bit. And, so.
God. It was addictively fun. This is one of the first. I mean, Street Fighter was the first, and then Street Fighter 2 came out, I think around the time Mortal Kombat came out. But Mortal Kombat always had the reputation of being much more violent. And it was glorious, especially to 90s kids like us, man. You'd be pulling people's spines out of the thing. You'd be crushing their heads. You'd be like freezing them and then kicking them, and they'd shatter all over the place.
And they kept on making new and improved deaths over the years and everything. Then there was a game called Pit Fighter that came out just before that. That was one of the first blood. There's all this blood. Yeah. Pit Fighter was the parental guidance game. It's fucking tame as shit when it's compared to Mortal Kombat. But that was the prelude to Mortal Kombat.
There was also something called Eternal Champions that was, I think, on the Genesis. That was also violent. But what was missing, obviously, from the PG-13 version of the first Mortal Kombat movie was the fatalities, was the churlishness, was the kind of the hyper violence and everything. And so this one that just came out, it's got that. It's very CGI. This ain't The Night Comes For Us. This ain't The Raid. This ain't even John Wick. But it's satisfying. And I tell you what, man, I am becoming a fast super fan of Joe Taslim. I mentioned him when we were talking about The Night Comes For Us. who plays the lead in opposition to Iko Uwais in that movie. He's in the first Raid movie, and he plays Sub-Zero in this, and he's really, really good. And the fight scenes are cut to hell, unlike the Raid movies and all that stuff. But there are a few, most featuring Joe Taslim, where there are longer takes and where there's a lot better action. And it's corny and it's cheesy and it's dumb, but it's so fun. I would recommend you guys just to absolutely just have your brains leak out of your ears and just fucking watch this. There's no rhyme or reason. The last thing I'll say about this is, remember the character Kano? Jeremy, did you ever play this game?
I played it a few times in college. By then it was past its prime.
Yeah.
When it came out, I was probably still playing shit like Double Dribble and Mario.
Yeah. Anyway, this Kano character has always been like the, I don't know, I guess he's been a villain in the games. I didn't follow like the whole lore and mythology of this game like everybody else did. I just knew who I was fighting, what their capabilities were, what the combos were, and that's it. But Kano, it was always, the British dude that was like a mercenary or something like that, had a laser eye, and he steals this movie. He is given, it's Josh Lawson that plays him. He's given the complete license to be the cackling anti-hero type, and he eats it up. And the best part of it is the throwaway lines. You'll hear like, I can't even do it justice. When you watch this, the most pleasure that you will get, make sure that you have earbuds on or something like that to where you can hear these throwaway lines, because they are absolutely hilarious. Much better than the actual thing itself. It's corny, it's cheesy, and it's not good, but I loved it. And I would recommend Mortal Kombat for any of you action lovers, especially those that like the video game.
Where is that? Do I have to pay to
HBO
watch
Max.
that?
It's HBO Max.
HBO Max. Doing its long run, and before it, I guess it goes into stream, like whatever it goes into.
Whatever it goes into, for sure.
The void. It's in theaters too. I mean,
it
like
is.
all the stuff is in theaters and streaming at the same time. Let's go through the recommends. We had a brief one here. Jeremy recommended $1 Million Arm. Barrett Rekka warned Mortal Kombat, the new one that's on HBO Max in theaters right now. And I recommended Capricorn One, 1978 movie directed by Peter Hyams about a fake Mars launch. All right, let's go to a question.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I'm listening.
All right, let's go to a question. I love this because I love my answer. I hate that I love my answer, but I love it. What are your favorite songs, not score, that were made specifically for movies? Musicals work, but are kind of a cop-out, but there are certainly others. Great example, Lose Yourself, Eminem's Lose Yourself, is one of my favorite songs, period, written for the movie 8 Mile, but is definitely up there, if not at the top of Eminem's best output.
There's a song that I still haven't seen this movie. I think I've even brought up this thing before, but The Odd Life of Timothy Green. The only reason why I know of this song called This Gift by Glenn Hansard is because, I think there was some weird thing where I had to open up the window while the credits were rolling in that movie. And because the lights didn't come up or something like that. And I heard the song, and I was like, damn, I like this song. I like this song a lot. And just listened to it all the way to the end. And then it became a thing where I would come around to The Odd Life of Timothy Green just to listen to the credits at the end and everything. This song is probably for some maybe a little bit too saccharine sweet. It comes at the end of a movie that is saccharine sweet and on its own, from what I understand. But Glenn Hansard has a hell of a voice. He won an Oscar for Once back in the day. That it was a very indie Irish film that shot him into fame. And he won an Oscar for the song Once, I believe the song was called Once. I'm
sorry, the song is called Falling Slowly.
Falling Slowly, but it was in the movie Once, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So this song comes, it was a few years after that movie came out and everything, but I really dug it. I ended up buying it on iTunes, and it becomes a regular playlist type of thing for me to put on, just because his voice is so engaging and everything. And the song is really good. I think it's really good. So there you go.
Got a very Damien Rice-y voice. You remember Damien Rice?
I do.
What from?
He had a song called The Blower's Daughter. Can't take my eyes off of you.
Yeah.
A great first album. But Glenn Hansard is right in that sort of wheelhouse.
Blower's Daughter.
Yeah.
He also had a wonderful song. I forget the name of it, but that was featured when Hurley is looking out onto the beach in Lost in the first season.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got the Walkman in, or Discman or something like that, before it runs out of batteries. Oh, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to just mention that thing you do would probably be my real true answer for this question, but I think I've talked about that movie and that song a bunch. So I went looking for another one, and I'm going to go with, you could pick almost the entire Magnolia soundtrack because Amy Mann wrote most of it, but the song Save Me from the Magnolia soundtrack
it's a good
nominated, nominated for an Oscar, nominated for a Grammy. She lost the Oscar. I was just reading on Wikipedia. She lost the Oscar to Phil Collins' You'll Be in My Heart.
It's always fucking Phil Collins, isn't it?
And she has since referred to the song as the song that lost an Oscar to Phil Collins in his cartoon Monkey Love Song. And sometimes she dedicates it to Collins when she performs it.
Man, people hate losing to Phil Collins. People hate losing to Phil Collins. South Park did the same thing after they lost for, he won for Tarzan.
Around his Oscars.
They did two things with Phil Collins in South Park. One, they made an impossible ski mountain out of his head in one episode, and then they actually put him in where he's like coming in, he's like, he's just an asshole, and you can hear it I think it's in the commentary where they're like, yeah, we were a little bit immature about losing to Phil Collins back then. Anyway,
that's me. That's my answer. Barrett, you got an answer?
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were going to talk about Amy Mann anymore, but obviously,
no, I'm done.
That's not it's not going to stop. Is the one they sing at the very end, right? Of Magnolia. It's not. Oh, Wise Up is the name of the
Wise
song.
Up. Yeah,
Wise Up. That is a. I don't care what your thoughts are about Magnolia. That whole sequence is absolutely brilliant, I think.
Because it captures all those characters at their lowest point, and they're all singing that song, and it's just I love Magnolia. I know it's got its whatever criticisms have gone its way are probably valid, but I remember watching that movie at Hollywood 27 and previewing it or whatever before it came out. And I remember it was like 2:00 in the morning. And
that's a late night.
I fucking loved that movie, man. That's fucking crazy.
By the way, the Damien Rice song that was featured in Lost is called Delicate. And you will recognize it if you listen to it. I have my favorite answer to this question that I thought of after I answered it at the beginning. And it's Sunflower on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse by two artists that I've never gotten into whatsoever. Sway Lee, who was part of a duo.
Sway Lee.
Black Beatles.
Crisscross.
What is it? Ray Sremmurd. So part of the duo Ray Sremmurd that was famous for Black Beatles and stuff like that. Sway Lee and Post fucking Malone, who I actually kind of want to like, but I can't get there. There's a couple of his songs that I can get behind.
Do you think he's got a good voice though, right?
Yeah, I do. I don't like the autotune. I don't like the autotune and the trill, the vibrato that he does.
Yeah, do you think that he doesn't have a good voice, but he's autotuned like into a like passable voice, or what?
I think it's the other way around. I think he's got a really good voice. It's like Bieber, man. I think he's got a really good voice, and he doesn't need the autotune. That makes it untenable.
Post Malone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember, I think a couple years ago, I sent you guys a video after we talked about him, of him singing a Bob Dylan song, Redemption
Bob
song,
Marley
maybe?
song.
Bob Marley song, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I got my Bobs mixed up. And he's got an excellent voice, and that is the most maddening thing to me about autotune. I understand when Kanye West does it, because he can't do any better than that. But Ariana Grande doesn't need to autotune, and yet sometimes she does. Same with Bieber, like you said. I feel like autotune could be his middle name, but his maiden name could be Don't Need It. That was a bad... I kind of train like that shit.
Along that. But yeah, so Sway Lee is the credited artist, and I think Post Malone is featured on it. But man, that is such a good song. I mean, there's a reason that Miles listens to this song to calm his ass down in the movie. It's so perfect. I mean, like, I will just absolutely jam out. We were talking in the pre-show. Jeremy was saying that the Billie Eilish's "I Think Therefore I Am," like, he will crank that shit whenever it comes up, and I will too. But Sunflower, when it comes on, man, I'm rolling every window down. I'm singing at the top of my lungs, and I'm turning that shit way up. It's such a beautiful song.
This is a rare moment when I was listening to Epic Awesome Videos in the morning, when a song would come on and I didn't mind how many times they played it. It's a very rare. It's very rare when this happens. That and Blinded by the Lights or whatever, the
Weekend.
Yeah, Weekend song. Those songs are the only ones I think of this era in which I've watched Epic Awesome Videos that I'm like, oh, I don't mind that song being played at all right now.
Well, not to mention the video is beautiful because it follows the same aesthetic as, you know, the lettering on the movie itself. It's got all the lyrics in there, but it's like it's revealed. Like Miles will move a book, and then all of a sudden the lyric that they're singing is right there.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that song so much. Did not expect to love that song because, as I said, I'm not a huge fan of either one of those guys. But it's one of those songs. It's apples and oranges, but it's something like Uptown Funk, where everybody loves Uptown Funk. You can't not love Uptown Funk. You can't not love Sunflower. If you do, there's something hideously wrong with you.
You are a bad human being. Rotten to the core. You're a bad
human being. So, I mean, we're just going to leave it there. Sunflower. But right. I like all your answers, too.
Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode.
Yeah, Bubba.
All right. Well, that's going to do it. Keep going to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. Quite a few of you came out and told me why you don't come to Facebook anymore. Most of them involve Facebook themselves. And other general things like that. I'm very appreciative that some of you came out and answered that question as to why some of you aren't coming back. Although I think really, unfortunately, this message isn't getting to a lot of the people who don't write anymore. So, you know, I have to deal with it, I guess. But just thank you for giving me some of your answers. We're also on Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter, SoundCloud, and Discord. If you want to get on Discord, go to Facebook and private message me, and I'll give you a link there. That's going to do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Shear. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com. Have you listened to any recent Ben Folds?
I listened to that concerto thing he did 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, and it was lovely, but it wasn't Whatever and Ever
Amen. Oh, Jesus. That's Whatever and Ever Amen isn't even his best album.
Reinhold Messner was when he was like 26.
You're so full of shit.
Tell me somebody that has had their best album after 30.
You already lied about how old Adele is.
You said she was 82. You were just off by 50 years.
But I'm having a hard time.
What's up, Chris?
Discussing this with you because you're being unreasonable.
I'm not being unreasonable.
You are.
There's a long history of 30 being the wrong side for running backs in the NFL and pop singers.
See, now you're pulling sports into this just to support your claim. Oh, man.
I'm telling you. There's Nirvana's best stuff was when they were in their 20s, obviously. They were all in their 20s. Smashing Pumpkins, all in their 20s.
So Ben Folds was born in 66, and Reinhold Messner came out in 99. That means he was 33, you shit-eating dick.
I didn't realize he was that old.
Of course you didn't. You just assumed you were right and charged into the battle headlong.
But would most people consider that to be their best album?
If they have a brain, it's better than the first one.
But
well, it's better than the first one, for sure.
I also think that best album is a straw man too, because
that's a good point.
Because you're saying that they fall off the table creatively. If that album is amazing, then who cares if it's their best album or not? Bruce Springsteen, by the way, I'm not a big fan of Bruce Springsteen, but Born in the USA was made when he was 37 or 30.
Yeah, eat shit
like
there.
That. I mean,
now he's 82.
Yes.
He actually may be 82.
He's 72. But yeah,
he was 36 with Born in the USA.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was. I mean, Born in the USA was what, 84, so he's what, 35, 34, 35.
If you think Mick Jagger's going to be out there when he's 50.
I'm just saying, by and large, the best work that you see from people is typically before 30.
Then what the fuck are we doing?
It's the exact opposite for writers. It's the exact opposite for writers. You don't publish shit until you're 30, right? Anything before 30, any writer will tell you, including you probably, that it's bullshit, right? This world is bullshit.
Is bullshit.
No, it's not.
Let's talk about something you don't disagree with me on for the sake of comedy.
No, do you? Okay, so but to tie this up in a bow, do you disagree with me? Do you think that most or even a large number of artists have their best work after 30?
I don't think that was the point you were making. Again, you're completely changing the conversation. Your argument was that they don't make good work after 30.
No, I said their best work.
Right,
Miley
so the
can come
best
out with
work
a very
came before 30.
album. Yes.
But we already
Bangers is going to be what
you
you go back to.
I disagree with the blanket statement, and I think you can cherry pick examples on both sides, so I don't think your statement is true.
What did Prince do when he was after 30? Graffiti Bridge? All right, Diamonds and Pearls, I'll give you.
He's going to rag on his favorite artist just to make his point.
His best work was Purple Rain when he was in his 20s. I'm just saying.
You know whose best work was before they were 30?
I would like to know the end of that sentence.
Jim Morrison?
Yeah.
Oh,
totally.
Oh no.
Yeah. The same could go for, just name them all off.
God bless
Jimi
him.
Hendrix.
I don't want to disparage him, but can you imagine how insufferable Jim Morrison would have been if he lived into the 80s? That would have been awful. That would have been awful.
But I don't know their music. All I know is that movie, and if he's anything like that movie, then he would be insufferable.
Val Kilmer.
From what I understand, he's kind of like Val Kilmer's character in that movie. You don't listen to the Doors? Did you ever have a Doors phase?
Man, I bought a Doors album back in, I don't know, 1992 or something like that. It was their first one, I think. One's got all. It might even be a greatest hits or whatever, but I don't like the Doors, man. I don't.
Mm-mm.
I think there was one song on there that I kind of liked, and it wasn't one of their more famous ones. It might have been like Whiskey Bar or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
But no, I'm not a fan.
Break On Through is a good rock song.
Of course, yeah. Break On Through is
Or
cool.
like fucking Riders on the Storm. You can just fucking come in my eyeball.
That's either
I was
positive
looking
or
for
negative.
something.
Sounds like you like the song.
I was looking for an unpleasant experience, and of course that came up.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
You know what? Probably the best Doors album is the fucking soundtrack to that movie. That's a good soundtrack.
Basically like a greatest hits then?
It is a great, yeah, for sure. Like This Is the End. God damn.
Like, do you really think the
Anchored.
Beatles' best work was their first two albums? I Want to Hold Your Hand.
No. I that's a fallacy though, and because no, obviously not. Their best album was the White Album. Beach Boys' best album, in my mind, was Pet Sounds. Now, I don't know exactly how old they were when those came out. Brian Wilson was probably around 30 when Pet Sounds came out.
Yeah, I mean, both McCartney and Wilson were born in 1942, so I think that's before they were 30, those albums.
Okay.
And
Dewey Cox was...
Because Pet Sounds was 60s, right?
Yeah, Pet Sounds was
66.
66, yeah.
66. So he was 26 when Pet Sounds came out. And that means Paul McCartney was 26 when the White Album came out.
So there you go. No, I don't think they're first ones, and especially the Beast Boys and the Beatles, because they were all like introducing the Beach Boys as their first album.
But you know why this is, right? You know why this is. You know why that they're not making their best music after 30. Don't you?
Because of drugs?
No. It's because they're not hungry anymore. And
sure.
And they don't have any experiences anymore that are inspiring them to create and things like that. And I think also you become really, really self-aware after a lot of success.
The same thing with stand-up comedians, right?
There are a lot of people who experience a lot of success, and I mean, yeah, and it's why rappers don't last very long, as far as they don't have like a huge, 20-year career or anything. We can say all we want about Eminem being awesome at whatever age, but he's not coming out with another Eminem show or anything like that, or Marshall Mathers LP or anything like that.
I mean, he's put out good music, but he doesn't get any play. And I think I thought that's where you were going, was that once you go past 30, you're not as sexy anymore, so they don't market you as much, and the radio doesn't play you as much, and you're not the hot new shit. And so only very few, like a Taylor Swift, have that kind of popularity for 20 plus years. And usually everybody else, I don't know. I think it's probably a combination.
Too. That factors too. There's no doubt about it. The sexiness factor, because when you get an MTV, you're young, you're energetic, all that. When you get in your 30s, you might be looking to, I don't know, seal your legacy in some way, or you're not out there trying to preen for the cameras and everything. And I like to see Ariana Grande do what she's doing 7 years from now.
Yeah, if you think Mick Jagger's going to be out there at 50.
That's right.
One last thing on singers, though. Billie Eilish is coming out with a new album.
I saw that.
July.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a lot of thinking about this.
She's done.
Is. Yeah, she's what, 20?
She's
19?
too old.
I think she's 20.
She's over the
Her
hill.
best work's behind her.
Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I think my favorite song of hers is that Therefore I Am. That song's
I'm
fucking
telling you.
baller.
It is. It's my favorite song of hers, too. I was just going to counter you by saying everything I hear from her gets better and better. So for now, she's still on the way up.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that first album. I love a lot of songs on there. I love Bad Guy. But man, Therefore I Am is just running through my head like constantly.
When I catch that on any of the stations, I'll turn it up. And the other day I turned it up and my wife said, "Oh, there's your jam." So it's now like it's obvious that I just fucking love that song. I've turned it up so
fucking
many times.
bass line, man. Boom, 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 boom.
It's that combined with the attitude of the lyrics and how she sings them. Like, I don't give a fuck about you, dude. I made a whole song about it.
Yeah. I like her thing. I like the cut of her jib.
Yeah, man. I like her a lot. I'm not surprised she's got another album. I'm almost surprised it's not a double album, considering just the way she is and everything. Like the pandemic was like, I'm just gonna write a billion songs and get into my room with my brother, and we're gonna do the studio thing there, and blah blah
That's
blah.
That's the crazy thing, man. Those two are like fucking that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have the experience of like being super close with a sibling, but like they are super, super close.
Yeah, they are.
And I mean, God bless him. I mean, he's older than her, right? He's like probably in his 20s.
Yes.
I think he's like 5 or 6 years older than her.
Something to be said. I mean, obviously she makes great music, and I'm sure she would with anyone, but he's a big contribution to her music. And
I bet he came up with that bass line.
Well, and I've I've heard several songs by artists on Alt Nation that he produced that are awesome. Outside of working with Billy, so he's got a talent and a career of his own too. Of course, he's got an album where he sings too, but
that's all right.
I like it, but you know me, I like James Eha's solo album. That's a pretty good comparison, actually.
That's the first time anyone's ever heard of James Eha
That's a deep cut there for you folks.
No, yeah.
I don't even have James Eha.
Oh, I've got the CD, baby. It's in the garage. So you don't have to do research, folks. James Eha, if this portion gets used in the outtakes, is a member of Smashing Pumpkins, and he put out a solo album. It's decidedly un-Smashing Pumpkins like. It's very light, happy acoustic guitar, poppy bops, like Hanson type music. I dug the shit out of it. Oh, I don't know where it was. Must have been on Twitter. I saw a video of Smiley at some kind of party or something singing that song, singing those lyrics he just sang. And
then you watched it a dozen more times?
No, just the one, and then I went to the bathroom. I had to go number 3.
It needed cleaning.
Is number 3 a thing? Did I just coin that?
You number 3, yeah. While 11ing my 9.
I just deconstructed it because of how it's staged, because he asks the question when they're all standing in a group, and then it cuts, and the group is in the background, and the one guy's in front, and I'm like, who's staging this? Who yells cut? And I'm like, oh, you guys move to the back now. And then, Teddy, you come forward.
Somebody sits in the chair.
It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
And they're asking the dregs of this high school to go out with her too.
Yeah.
The guy who screams, I'm like, fuck you, dude.
Oh yeah, he's like,
you never had a shot anyway. Go
Seriously.
fuck yourself. Yeah. The girl who plays Julia Stiles' like best friend in that movie, I think is 30 or something.
Wow.
She's
really?
she's like 27, 28. Gabrielle Union is like in her late 20s playing a high school girl in that movie.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Damn. Wow.
But the other friend, maybe she's not 30, but she's like up there for a high school girl.
Susan May Pratt.
Yeah, I think that's who it is. The one that David Krumholtz ends up with.
Yeah.
And there's that funny outtake at the end where they're like, he's like kissing her or whatever, and she goes out of the frame, and he's like, "Could I get a prophylactic? Anybody got a prophylactic in here?"
I love David Krumholtz, man.
I do too, man.
She's almost 50, and she looks better than we will ever look.
Yes, true. Indeed.
Looks better than I did when I was a ripe young.
No, go ahead.
The guy who changed my thinking, and I was still pretty conservative at this point. This was like 2004. I was working at this church, and the youth pastor there was about my age, really cool guy. And they had a recycling program, and he and I were having a conversation one day where I was like, we're just wasting money. We're just this. If you look at it, we're not making a dent, and we're just spending money, spinning our wheels. And he said, that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. Mm-hmm. And that stuck with me for a really long time. And he was conservative. I don't know if he was Republican, but he was, a youth pastor. For him, it was very biblically based. He said, we're stewards of the earth, just like we are of our fellow man, and we still have to try and do something. And that probably started, now that I'm saying it out loud, that was probably one of the few moments that started tilting me toward the left and being woke, if you will.
By saying that, he essentially expelled you from Christianity.
Yeah, if only he knew.
Eventually.
If only he knew. Yeah, your wonderful views on climate change actually cost heaven a soul.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep.
Way to go, dickhead.
Yeah, exactly.
You're my butterfly, sugar baby.
Come, my lady, come,
my lady. You're my butterfly, sugar baby. My wife was reading about limoncello, and so I decided to buy some because it's like a common. It's like an Italian thing, and it's a type of liquor that is helps with digestion, which I didn't know, which is why it's like an after meal thing people do. So I went to this liquor store, and I probably got scammed because I just said, my wife wants to try a limoncello, and the lady walked me over and pointed me to this shelf, and there was one brand, and it was a big bottle, and it said limoncello. And so I bought it, and she did not like it. And I bet there was a tiny bottle behind her on the shelf I could have bought if I'd asked for it.
So now you have a giant bottle of limoncello.
And it's in the fridge.
I do remember there was one time, a long time ago, where Danny DeVito was on The View, and it went viral. This is probably maybe 2010 or something like that. It went viral because he was obviously hammered.
Oh.
And like Whoopi or Joy or whoever the fuck it was, Star Jones, asked him about it, and he was like, I got to be honest with you. And his Danny DeVito voice is, I got to be honest with you. I've been out with George Clooney all night doing limoncello shots. And he said, things got out of hand. I'll send you the link to this interview. It's fucking hilarious. He looks even like kind of more Danny DeVito-y than he normally does.
That's awesome. I just read about a new movie project. Speaking of Clooney, it sounds weird, man, because the headline in the picture was about Caitlin Dever signing on to a new project, but it's a George Clooney, Julia Roberts project. And I was like, oh, that sounds a little interesting. But then I read about it, and it's two separated or divorced parents that hate each other come together to stop their daughter from making the same mistake they did by getting married too young, directed by the guy who made the Mamma Mia sequel. And it just feels like 6 days, 7 nights to me, quality and maybe even look and feel. Like, I'm not excited for this one.
Look,
that sounds
Clooney,
bad, man.
Clooney doesn't need anything. He's got them all. He's doing diplomatic stuff. He's living in Lake Como. He's got all the money in the world. But I feel like he's wasting the end of his prime. You know what I mean?
He did that Money Monster movie. It was terrible.
That was bad. He did Midnight Sky. That was terrible.
He did.
I feel like he's Midnight Sky, that Netflix
Midnight Sky,
thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got plenty. He's got late career Paul Newman potential, but far be it from me, man. He's got everything he needs, and I would be doing probably the same thing he did. But like, I wish we got a little more like premium Clooney. before he hangs it up.
He's got to stop trying to make fetch happen.
That's true.
That really has been his calling card. That whole like we're helping kids in Syria thing has been a front for a long time. He's just trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife about celebrity presidential candidates after The Rock came out on Instagram. First of all, there was like some sort of story, poll or something that said The Rock should run. And then The Rock a day or so later comes out on his Instagram with this whole, I doubt the founding fathers had a half Samoan, half whatever, 6'3", 900-pound something in mind when it came to the Oval Office. But if I ever got the call, I would be proud to serve. And I was explaining to my wife that means he's seriously considering running. Nothing this man does is anything short of image-conscious calculation. The man has clauses in his contract about how many punches he can take in movies so that he still looks like the guy who can't take a punch. So he doesn't post this Instagram message as a lark. This means he's thinking about it. Just like McConaughey has now 2 or 3 times floated out, I might do it one day. And now they got him polling higher than the sitting governor. This is going to happen. Maybe not these specific people, but this is the future. And this is why I was saying Clooney might run. And my wife rolled her eyes, and I said, well, at least, you know, he's a good man. He spends millions of dollars on the satellite time just to monitor this border in Africa to keep illegal trafficking from happening. You don't do that. That's not something he talks about frequently. That's not something he goes around publicizing. He's not doing that for, I mean, you know, if we're going to have celebrity actor presidents, and I believe, well, first of all, we already have, but I believe we will, and it may be no turning back. Let's at least get behind the ones that seem to be decent people, right?
Yeah.
Like McConaughey doesn't seem so bad. I don't know at the end of the day whether he would go to Cancun if the state was freezing, but I somehow doubt it. I give him
That's
a shot.
the bar. That is the bar for Texas politicians.
It's a low bar.
Run him up against a fucking teddy bear with his eye missing and fucking get Teddy, you wouldn't. You can't get rid of these guys. Yes, exactly.
I can see the campaign ads now.
Is that the one that ends with him with his head on a robot body, looking or carrying Bobo around in the future?
Yeah, it's at the very end. Like humans are getting whipped, and I think it's the Planet of the Apes almost, something like that.
Something like that.
And he's like, oh, Bobo, I know it's been 1,000 years, but something like that. I think that's right.